Tonight, there's a huge yet crazy partnership between Marvel and Hulu coming, and we're not going to just report on it. Oh, we're going to break down all of these characters, and we're going to tell you which of those shows is going to be the most awesome. Plus, could there be even more content headed to Hulu? We'll talk about that. But most importantly, we will connect two things that you might find hard to believe. One, the hottest band in the world, Kiss, and Marvel. Marvel TV Weekly starts now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes, indeed. Welcome to Marvel TV Weekly. I'm Christian Bladt, joined as always by Xia Anderson.
Hey guys.
Xia Anderson, Xia Bastille Day. So many names.
Got like 5 now.
Well, that's what happens when you get married. You end up having to take 5 names.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll keep them.
For those watching live, Xia is manning or personing the chat. Sorry, I want to be gender inclusive.
I'm Christian.
You're personing the chat. And so say hi. Let us know your thoughts about the Hulu deal. If you're a Marvel fan, you know exactly what we're talking about. We're going to really take some time and go through all 4 of these shows, including the one that I know absolutely nothing about. But before we get to that, we have some fun photos to share with you. And it ties into the fact that I have, for those watching on YouTube, a very snazzy Kiss t-shirt that I bought last night. Seeing the band at the Forum. It was $75, believe it or not.
What?
Yeah.
For that shirt?
Straight up concert shirts were $50, but then this one's got long sleeves, so they're like, yep, that'll be $75. My wife and I talked a little bit about it. She was on board. But in the old days, I probably would have bought 2 shirts. And then it's like, all right, but that still would have been less than $75. But here's a few things that tie into that. The first is that I ran into our friend, the one, the only, Amy Cassandra Martinez, formerly of this show, formerly of Marvel Movie News, currently of Netflix Picks, and over on the Popcorn Talk Network, the Box Office Breakdown. She spent 4 hours doing makeup for herself and her husband, and if you're watching on YouTube, you see amazing Gene Simmons makeup. The demon, which I always thought Amy Cassandra Martinez is a little bit of a demon, not a diva, a demon. And
that tongue proves it.
That one will be that. Yeah, that last one ties in a second. But and if you aren't watching live on YouTube and you're just listening, you can find her Amy Cassandra MTZ. See, look at that. She's not on the show anymore, and she gets a plug. Now, here's one that for those watching on YouTube again, that I thought when Amy sent it to me, I thought that was her on the ride over. But if you look at the username, why, that's Ming-Na Wen, Agent May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Hey.
That is her on the way to the same concert. And the comment is really funny because she says, my iPhone Face ID won't unlock my phone because it sees Gene Simmons instead of me. So I thought, I was like, wow. And I had no idea. And her husband also made up like Paul Stanley, like Amy's was. So then you're like, all right, well, what's the connection from Marvel? All right, well, first, Kiss appeared in Marvel Comics in the late 70s. They had their own Title II issues. And Stan Lee and Kiss, both being the salespeople that they were, the marketing was, and some of their blood was mixed into the red ink. But the band Kiss first appeared in Marvel Comics in Howard the Duck. And I don't have my bell like I do on my my personal show, the Black.
You really wanted to.
This would have been a good time for it, because that ties in to our big news for the start of the show, which is indeed the fact that Hulu has a big deal with Marvel coming up. They already have The Runaways. They have like next day rebroadcast, for lack of a better term, of Cloak and Dagger, Zia's favorite show. And it looks like the deal is only getting bigger because there are 4 new shows. Now, the first we're going to talk about is Howard the Duck, whom, again, if you're watching on YouTube, you see Howard the Duck #1. Well, it's actually not his first appearance, but that's his first solo book. And like most spin-offs, always helps to put Spider-Man in your number one. If you look at the original Ms. Marvel number one, Carol Danvers' first solo book, Spidey's in that too. It's a safe bet. It's like, you know what, first issue, just put Spider-Man in it. You'll get people like me would be like, well, I sure do love Spidey. I don't know who Howard the Duck is. But the Howard the Duck TV series is the first of, well, 4 full-fledged series, and then there's sort of a combination series we'll talk about. This will be run by Kevin Smith of Clerks and Jay and Silent Bob fame. Dogma, you could keep going. And also Dave Willis, who people know from Aqua Teen Hunger Force because he was the genius behind Meatwad.
Amazing.
And the rest of the gang.
So great.
So, yeah, I was like, you know, like Kevin Smith, Howard the Duck, great, I'm already in.
Yep. Oh,
and then
yeah.
I'm like, oh, wait, Aqua Teen Hunger Force? Oh, yes, please.
Oh, yeah.
Before we talk a little bit about Howard and his backstory, I love that his name's Howard. What are your thoughts when you first heard, you know, the deal as a whole, sure, but when you first heard, like, oh my God, Howard the Duck's going to be one of them?
Okay, before we jump into that really
sure.
quickly, I'm just going to go to the chat because we had a couple, just back to the kiss.
Sure, yeah, I'm sorry. I should have asked.
No,
I
you're
should have
good.
asked for, as Gene Simmons would say, kissonline.com. You know, you don't just say kiss, you turn it into a brand.
Kissonline.com.
Kissonline.com. Yes, go ahead.
Rick Bocanegra, and I'm so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong.
Oh, I hope that's how you say his name.
hope-
That's, what a great name that is.
I know, right? Isn't that cool? He said, I had the Kiss comic, so that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And then Star
Very
Drew,
valuable, the first printing, yeah.
I bet.
Yeah. I never
Star
had
Drew asks us both, what is your favorite Kiss music?
Wow. That's tough. But I wasn't expecting that question
know,
on this show.
me neither. You know, the
I will
only
say
thing-
the Creature of the Night album, just beginning to end. Like if
Okay.
I'm just gonna go album because if I'm gonna pick like songs and stuff, we'll be here all night, and that's not this show. But the album Creatures of the Night is amazing. The drumming on it is crazy. It was like, it's the closest they came to being like, you know, what in the early '80s passed for heavy metal.
All
You know?
right.
Now, it's not necessarily like in your top 5, but do you have something that you're like, oh, I like when I have heard this song or seen this thing? Or
So Kiss is one of those bands. First of all, I love Detroit Rock City.
the movie.
Oh, yeah, that movie's awesome.
We talked a lot about that movie last night.
That movie is so
as we
great.
walked from, we didn't just park at the Forum. We parked at the dirt lot across the street where they're building the Rams' new stadium. Anyway, so we talked a lot about that movie.
No, that movie is awesome. So I watched that when I was, way younger and
Sure.
thought it was great. Kiss is one of those bands I never got really into. I
Sure.
didn't buy a lot of albums, but anytime one of their songs come on, I'll listen to it, I'll turn
Yeah.
it up, and I know it's Kiss.
Right? No, you
So,
do know. Yeah.
You always know it's Kiss. Ivan Soto asked, what's Kiss? Metal, punk? It's like 80s rock.
Yeah, and they had the scary makeup,
Yeah.
which terrified me as a child. True story. 3 years old, I saw them on a show called 3-2-1 Contact. I was very frightened. I needed my mom. But tying to Marvel
frightening
Comics
my mom.
is all legit.
Yes.
So
Back to Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck, yes.
I am just really excited about that because
Sure.
all we got was that one movie, and I think it was 1986.
1986.
It's not great.
Leah Thompson.
I love her and
Okay,
everything,
so
but
not great.
No.
Absolutely true, but not as bad as people say. For your, 80s sci-fi comedy hybrids, it's better than some.
okay.
And the Duck is good. Leah Thompson's great. This is probably the next movie she did after Back to the Future 2. You know what I mean? No, not Back to the Future 2.
Back to the Future.
comma, also.
As well.
Back to the Future 2 would have been after this. Anyway, yeah. So, but it's not. I'm not saying it's a great movie, but it gets a little bit of a bad rap. Anyway.
So I'm really excited to see it, and I feel like it works the best in animated form.
Yes.
Live action, I feel like you could definitely do these days, but I like the idea of a cartoon for this better. So I'm excited about that. I got really excited when I heard Kevin Smith was going to be involved. That's amazing. And then you get, of course, Aqua Teen Hunger Force. You get that influence in there. So I just think the tone of the show is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to knowing more about it because I don't know a ton about Howard the Duck.
No, I mean, I think for a lot of people, like a certain generation of Marvel fans, they know him voiced by Seth Green in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2.
Yes.
And just the inclusion of him in Guardians of the Galaxy, I was so excited because, look, the Howard the Duck movie is sort of a colossal failure. it's legendary in show business for just overall fun. It's from George Lucas, okay? At a time when George Lucas was still beloved, you know. Hey, I'm just trying, you know, some people have an adverse reaction to him. I think, you know, there's no Star Wars without him. So obviously, he's got a brilliant mind. Indiana Jones, you know, come on, he and Steven Spielberg
agreed.
together.
Yeah.
So, the Howard the Duck movie, let's just say, is a little bit of a misstep, as it were. But he's a fun character. And that movie was so badly received that the character disappeared from comics for a little while.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah. And he wasn't like huge at that point, but they probably
Right.
expected like, oh my God, he's in a movie. We're going to have a new series. Maybe he'll be in Secret Wars 2. You know, we're going to do everything with it. And then it's like, oh wait, no, people hate him. Okay. So.
He wasn't in the Secret Wars,
no,
was
no,
he?
that was a joke.
Okay, I was
That,
because I just read Secret Wars recently and I don't remember that. Am I crazy?
But there's also Secret Wars 2.
Okay.
Which is not as good
I
as
haven't
Secret
read
Wars.
that. Yeah,
The
Secret Wars
Beyonder
is
has a
great.
mullet. That's all you need to know.
Oh.
Yeah, although he works it like nobody's business. In any case, yeah. So Howard the Duck, this is good because all of these Hulu shows are going to be, you know, not like adult, but they're going to be sort of, you know, like adult leaning. You know, I mean, they're not for kids. That's the important thing. They will probably be a little bit more PG-13. You know, they're not going to be. It's not going to be, well. It's not going to be South Park, but it could be like South Park as it airs on Comedy Central. Because if you watch South Park like on Hulu, it's like uncensored and all the swearing's in there. It's probably like going to be one of those shows where they swear but they bleep it.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
And you know what? I'm fine with that. I'll
Yeah.
take that. That's cool.
Yeah, because Kevin Smith, you know, if you're even, you know, generally casually familiar with him, he dips into the blue ink, a little salty language now and then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
like-
if you're not familiar with him, please go see the scene in Mallrat where with
Stan Lee, yeah.
Yes.
But to the extent that his film Clerks, when it was originally submitted to the Motion Picture Association, it was given an NC-17 rating just for language, just for
did know
talking.
that.
And it was the first, it's not the only time now, but for a long time, it was the only movie where without making a cut, he just pled the case and they gave it an R rating because it was just talking, but the talking was so explicit
You know
and
what's
so filthy.
really funny to me? I've seen Clerks a few times. The language never was crazy to me. I don't know what that says about how I grew up. But
No.
it was not at all. I was like, what?
We talk a lot on
What's
this
this
show about the
language?
public schools in Hawaii. So, no, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I certainly wasn't scandalized by it, but I
No.
also, you know, wouldn't watch it with my kids in the house. So,
True. But I like that spin that he's going to bring to it.
yeah, no, I do too. And, you know, there was very briefly a 6-episode animated version of Clerks that he did. And, you know, he hasn't done a lot in the world of animation, but I think his sensibility would be great. He's written comics, he's written Daredevil, he's written stuff for the distinguished competition, as it were. So I'm very excited for the show. Dave Willis on board is like, all right, he's going to know how to turn it, you know. Kevin Smith will be able to do some big picture stuff. Not that he can't do episodic, but this is like, well, this is how this is going to work in a cartoon show. So I love that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say another thing that I think is going to be really awesome is just the level of humor that we're going to get. I think they're going to both bring a level of humor that's going to really be great for the show, especially for Howard the Duck, just that character.
Excuse me. That was the worst timed gulp of water yet. I was like, as I'm swallowing, I'm like, oh, she's done talking.
Sorry. If
I start trying to talk, I'm gonna cough.
Well, also, just sidebar then, since we're doing that, everybody loves your t-shirt. Rick Bocanegra, he says I said his name right. Awesome. Says loves your shirt. Ghost8386 says dope shirt, Christian.
Oh my gosh, I'm so popular. Yeah, all you have to do to be popular with the folks on YouTube is spend $75 on a t-shirt.
Yeah, not a big deal. And then we have Merle Ortega in the chat also said, are we going to get on Hulu Daredevil, Jessica Jones, The Punisher, and Luke Cage and those shows? I don't know if that's something we want to touch on later.
That,
yeah, cool. So we will have an answer for you.
I would like to see Howard interact with everyone.
To see that.
You know, I would like him. You know, if he can show up in Avengers Endgame, that would be great. You know, he's part of the MCU. We saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd like him to star in Guardians 3. But anyway, basically, the character first appeared in the 70s, and I don't know, in all honesty, he's never really like a huge he's not a star of the Marvel Universe, but he's kind of like, oh, he's funny. You sort of like him, And as the title on his book says, trapped in a world he never made. And I will just give you a quick, like 2-sentence explanation. And I have to get this right out of Wikipedia because I didn't remember all of this verbiage. Howard was abducted from his home planet and dropped into the Florida Everglades by, follow this, the demon lord Thog the Netherspawn, overmaster of Sominus the Dark Domain. He meets the Man-Thing, who that's a real legitimate like Marvel character who I bet will get a movie or a TV show someday. Korik of Kartha, Demek the Enchanter, and it falls off the interdimensional stepping stones. And then my favorite part, he materializes in Cleveland, Ohio, and battles Garko the Man Frog.
Cleveland, the Man Frog.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right. This sounds really exciting.
Yeah, and he's best known for basically a model that he's friends with named Beverly Switzler. That is Leah Thompson in the movie. He ends up basically being a private detective, which, of course, why wouldn't your talking duck be a private detective? But look, we certainly know that private detective is a great way to have episodic adventures. We saw it with our friend Jessica Jones. But, you never know who's going to come into an office and what sort of adventures that'll send you off in. So in a lot of ways, of the 4+ Hulu shows that we're going to talk about here on the show tonight, I'm the most excited for Howard the Duck just because he's a character that I've known for a while. I would like him to get his just desserts. And that's not some kind of like duck pun that I'm trying to craft in my head right now. Okay, maybe it is. But I would like people to, know him and appreciate him. And people just at some point, I want to overhear, this can be at a Comic-Con, it can be anywhere. I just, hey, did you see the new Howard the Duck? It was hysterical. I'm like, yes, that's what I want. So, Xia, you've talked a little bit about your excitement for it. I would like to talk about the other shows. But before we talk about the other shows...
guys, we have other shows to talk about, other shows here. Wait, that's not right. Anyway, before we move on to our next topic, we just wanted to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. For us to continue to grow, we could use your help. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. That's such a huge help by you just have to hit like one button. Just hit one button. You can even turn the notifications off if you don't want to get like pestered all day with it, but it'll still show up in your feed of notifications. Hey, the show is on. It is time. So yeah, that helps us out a lot. That's awesome. Give us a rating on iTunes. That's another like really cool way to help out. We always love seeing your comments on iTunes and on YouTube. Give us a 5-star rating because 1 through 4 does not work. And yeah, leave us a comment so you can get involved with the conversation too. Because as I've said this many, many times, I've grown very attached to all of you, and I love chatting with you, and I love seeing your comments in here. And I wish I could just sit and have a conversation with all of you as well.
That's right. We'll have you all in here.
Yeah.
We'll sit around. We'll
just
have
have like
Sunday
a
brunch.
Yeah.
And we'll sit around and we'll talk.
I'll make some food. And being a part of AfterBuzz TV, Christian's like, yes, feed me, has meant so much to me because the fact that I get to come in here and do this and talk about things that I love is ridiculous. This is literally the coolest thing ever. And seriously, thank you all for supporting us in doing what we love. Christian included. He does what he loves.
Yes, I do get to do what I love, which is get told that my t-shirt is cool, but also talk about Marvel because it's... Oh my gosh, Marvel's been a part of my life as long as my wife has been alive. I just made that connection.
Wow.
The same year she was born, I started reading comics. And you know what? I watched cartoons before that. So honestly, Spidey's been with me longer than my wife. So
Spidey, you could say, is your first love.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not going to tell Heather that.
My first love is definitely Star Wars.
Oh, Star Wars.
Just
okay.
to be legit. But Spidey's right up there. He's top 5.
That's fair.
Okay, so let's move on to the second of these shows.
Oh, super quickly before we jump in.
What's
I just want to know if you know this. Star Drew does say, I want to know if this show will be shown in Canada. Do you know that by any chance?
All right, so Star Drew, that makes a great, definitely makes a great point here. Our neighbors to the Great White North, they do not have Hulu. Now, I know that they have Netflix, but Netflix in other countries is always different.
Yes.
And a good example of that is the show that airs on CBS All Access here, which I cover for AfterBuzz TV Thursdays at 10 Pacific. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Star Trek Discovery. That airs on CBS All Access here. The rest of the world outside of North America, it's on Netflix. But in Canada, Star Trek Discovery airs on a channel called Space. So there's like separate deals have to be made for Canada. Network shows, I believe you guys see kind of, in a same day and time, but I think on different channels, that sort of thing. This stuff, that's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that, but I think that at first you might not see it, and I can imagine that's sort of infuriating because, the rights to the shows that are on Hulu, like the broadcast network, the next day airings and that stuff, or, previous seasons and that stuff, those are probably tied up with different rights in Canada. But their original content, there should be a way to, just subscribe to Hulu in Canada. So we will look into that, and when I have anything that even comes close to resembling an answer, we'll mention it on this show. But as far as I know, I don't know how close you are to the border, but if you drive,
take a drive to New York.
You just it depends on where in Canada you are. You drive south of the border into the U.S. Zia will give you her Hulu login. She'll just direct message her.
I would. If you
just for you, Star Drew. I'm sorry, everybody else in the chat. You guys can get it on your own. Star Drew would like to pay for it. They just won't let him.
Yeah.
Hulu's like, what? She's staring at her password. I don't think we're going to have to cancel her account. Anyway, so the second of these shows we're going to talk about is a fascinating concept. It's called Marvel's Tigra and Dazzler show. And that title, it gives a certain indication on tone. It comes from Chelsea Handler, who we mostly know as a talk show host, almost exclusively knows as a talk show host and author, basically. But somebody that is, a comedian, deeply entrenched in the comedic world. And she'll be the executive producer. And the show will be written by Erica Rivanoia, someone I've actually known for 20 years. So I'm very excited. Yeah, we were pages at NBC together, and she's written some big animated movies that, any of you with kids have certainly seen. Cloudy the Chance of Meatballs, the Trolls movie, stuff like that.
Movie.
Yeah. And but she also has worked on South Park. That's sort of the best thing about her career is that's her side gig. It's like between things, like, I'm just going to go back and hang out with my friends Trey and Matt at South Park.
That is amazing.
Yes, she's an amazing person, and she's also one of the funniest people you ever meet. She's just this unassuming, soft-spoken woman from New Mexico. The only person I've ever met from New Mexico. It's not true. Steve, who works here.
I didn't know he was from New Mexico.
So it's two people I met. But anyway, so she's so funny, and I think that once she gets a feel for these characters, and we are about to talk about these characters, I think that bringing her sensibility to it will be great. Chelsea Handler, it's going to definitely push the envelope. And according to the description, is the show will be politically progressive Tigra and Dazzler as they try to get their superpowered heads, hands, and hearts around life in the city of Angels. So they're going to be here in Los Angeles.
Woohoo.
Who knows what they're going to be trying to do in Los Angeles? I hope they're trying to make it in their respective careers. Now, Zia, your familiarity with both of these characters, let us know what you think about the show and how familiar you are with them.
Okay, not super familiar. Again, that's like going deep dive. I know that Dazzler was, for me, reading wise, I know that Dazzler was part of the X-Men.
Yes.
I know she
throughout much of the 80s. She had her own solo comic starting in the very early 80s, actually.
Which I never read. So now my list of things to read and watch is growing ever bigger. Guys.
There's a great Marvel graphic novel, I believe it's Marvel graphic novel number 11, called Dazzler the Movie. It is not a movie. It is a comic book, but it's a great starting point
for her.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, Dazzler the movie. That's easy. But I know that she takes sound and converts it to light.
Yes.
So she's kind of similar to
Jubilee?
Yeah.
Well, Jubilee has like more of like a firework thing, but yeah, she
Yeah.
will take the sound and turn it into lights and lasers and things.
Right, and she'll use that as a show during her
And
concerts, and she's like a pop star.
When we first meet her, in fact, Marissa, if you can bring up the Dazzler picture that I have in there, which is the cover to Uncanny X-Men 130. It's the next one down.
That's a cool Tigra picture.
Yeah, we'll get to Tigra in a minute. But because we're talking about Alison Blair, the Dazzler, there she is in her first appearance, Chapter 2 of the Dark Phoenix saga, by the way. Thank you very much. In the Uncanny X-Men number 130. There you see her in her earliest incarnation as the Disco Queen superstar.
She looks like a Disco Queen superstar.
She had no interest in using her mutant powers to fight anyone, to support any cause. She used her mutant powers to become famous and basically put on a great performance, kind of like the show I saw last night with Kiss, with a lot of lasers and explosions and things.
Nice.
So she brought that to the disco world, and the character evolves a lot basically throughout the course of the 80s. Her look changes, and she's a very important part of the X-Men. And I don't know. I think it's a character that I've liked for a long time, and I'm excited to see her in a show. And then we get to her partner in crime, Tigra, who is best known, for me anyway. Tigra appeared in, she was a member of the West Coast Avengers. And that was an early spin-off of just your regular good old-fashioned Avengers, but they had a second team based out here in Los Angeles with, let's see, we had Hawkeye, Tony Stark, of course. He's got houses everywhere. He could be on the Avengers anywhere. He could be on the Avengers on the moon. He could be in the Avengers. If they were like Avengers Monaco, he probably has a house there. He's everywhere. So, and her name is Greer Grant Nelson. That is her secret identity. And she's actually been around. I had to look this up. I was surprised that the character had been around this long. She first showed up in Giant Sized Creatures #1 in July of 1974.
Wow.
How old is that? It's older than me.
Much older than us.
Well, definitely than you. And just a little fun for the fellow fans of the Netflix shows. She was introduced alongside Night Nurse, who was essentially Rosario Dawson's character. Anyway,
and Luke, yeah, amazing.
right, exactly. So, so you can see her, and
she looks awesome.
It's a very cool look. She's not one for clothes. Let's put it that way.
She doesn't need them. She's a cat. She's a cat. Yeah. What do you need clothes for?
She's just a little too anthropomorphic. I almost had that word right. And so she's got to cover up.
But cover the boobs
if she was a
and
little
stuff,
bit, if she's a little bit more animal, it'd be like whatever. So you almost don't need to know that much about her, but. You see the look, so you imagine her and Dazzler. I assume they're like roommates. They have like a loft together.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be great.
Tigra looks like a very agile fighter to me, and I think that especially in cartoons, that's going to be great.
She's very agile, and she has like a ferociousness to her because obviously
she's a cat.
The animal abilities basically, and there's a whole backstory that if you're interested you can dive into some of these older issues, the cat people and everything where it comes down from, but she's a character that was around a lot. I mean, mostly, I really know her from West Coast Avengers, and I actually have lost track of the character. I don't know what she's up to right now. But I think this show is going to probably bring her back to the forefront. What are people saying about Tigra and Dazzler?
Oh, Rick Bocanegra says that Tigra Dazzler show doesn't look that interesting to me. Looking forward to Hit Monkey, which we will get to.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
Should we get to Hit Monkey next?
We can get to Hit Monkey next, yeah.
I put Xia in charge of this because I know some to a lot about all the other characters, but Hitmonkey, I was just like, I don't know anything about Hitmonkey.
I don't know anything about Hitmonkey. Yeah, that was a thing I had to look up.
Yeah, right. I had to look up what it was, but
so Hitmonkey is a really interesting story. It's so out there to me that I was like, okay, This is
Yeah.
interesting. It is a monkey that, well, it actually starts with a hitman who is
not a monkey.
who is not a monkey.
Right.
He's just a man.
Let's start there right
so
away.
we'll start
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
He's just a man that is running from, I think it's other assassins, and so he is running through the mountains, and it's snowing, and this tribe of monkeys who this particular monkey is a part of save him, and so they take him in and they're trying to nurse him back to health. Hit Monkey is against it. He thinks that it's only going to bring them trouble and it's not going to be good and they need to just get rid of him, let him die, whatever. They're like, just get rid of this hitman guy. And so he's distrustful of the hitman. So while the hitman is trying to get better, he's practicing with, his gun and his moves and his martial arts to heal and get better and keep on his toes, I guess. And all the while, this monkey is watching him do it. And so he learns from him. And sure enough, the monkey is right. And the assassins find out where this hitman is and come, and not only do they kill the hitman, but they kill this monkey's entire monkey tribe.
Family. Oh,
yeah,
monkey
family.
tribe. Wow.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
family
sure.
tribe. And so he wants revenge. So he uses all of the skills that he learned while watching this hitman to kill the assassins, and then he goes out into this this world and this crazy revenge scheme to basically he kills assassins and hitmen. Like that's what he goes out to do. But he learned all of that from a hitman. So he's Hit Monkey. It's the craziest story to me. I love it.
It's such a crazy idea, and it just shows how outside the box Marvel thinks about their properties.
Right?
Like things like, would you be interested in turning this into a show?
Let's do
And
it.
you're like, sure. Getting tasked with like, yeah, let's go ahead with Hit Monkey. And I look forward to that one in a way of it's like, just imagine some of the great Marvel characters and the way that they've been turned into movies or TV series. Like, imagine if you could sit down for season 1 of Daredevil and, the Ben Affleck movie had never happened. And also, like, you just didn't know anything about the character.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what happened? So he's blind, but he can see with his other senses. This is crazy.
True.
So, Hit Monkey's a little bit of that. I've read some of the same things, and I'm like, I still don't get it, but I do know that early on he had an arc where he showed up and he teamed up with Deadpool, and you're like, yeah,
That's amazing.
I can see them hanging out.
Yes.
Hit Monkey and Deadpool. So I know there are people who love this guy. This comic first appeared, I think I was reading, it was like 2010.
2010,
so
yeah.
Yeah, so he hasn't been around forever, and I kind of like that this is a newer property.
Yeah, why not change it up a little bit? Get some of the sort of fresher things, I guess. Not that there aren't a plethora of other stories of characters that we know that we can use, but it's just kind of cool to get something that maybe a lot of people aren't as familiar with. Because you've been reading comics since
What did I establish that I was 7?
35, yeah. So however many years, but you're not super familiar with Hit Monkey, so
No,
that's
no.
even fun for someone like you that
that
literally
makes
reads
it
all
fun,
the comics.
fun for me. And look, it's like, if they're turning this into a show, I feel good about the what the end result is going to look like on the screen.
Ghost 8386 here says Rocket Raccoon versus Hit Monkey versus Howard the Duck would be an awesome movie.
Right?
That would be so fun. Let's just start throwing everyone together. Why
Yeah,
not?
right, exactly. And the creative team behind this is Josh Gordon and Will Speck. So this is the one that for me is the least known. And it's arguable as to who is the best known of these properties. Howard the Duck is known sort of infamously because of the movie. Dazzler is really well known because she was a member of the X-Men, during a very successful run of the X-Men, like kind of at the height of comic sales. So we will now get to the fourth of these shows, which will come to us from Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom, who worked on the Dan Harmon show Community, and also the American Dad, the Seth MacFarlane show. The one with the FBI agent, the CIA agent, and the talking alien in his house, and he's a goldfish that also talks. Whatever.
The alcoholic alien.
Yeah,
My favorite,
exactly.
Roger.
Yeah, Roger's amazing. So he's from that background, so that'll tell you a little bit about what he's going to
Great.
bring. And also Patton Oswalt, very funny comedian, and that will be M.O.D.O.K, whom those of you watching on YouTube will see here. M.O.D.O.K is well known because he's been around the Marvel Universe for really, I think, almost 50 years, but 40 at least. And he's known as a villain for Captain America, the Avengers. Your big Marvel villains have all had run-ins, or your big Marvel heroes, my apologies, have all had a run-in with MODOK. And like a lot of people, Xia, how do you know MODOK?
I know him from it was a Spider-Man cartoon, I believe. No, Iron Man.
It was an Iron Man cartoon.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
The Iron Man cartoon from the 90s. And he definitely scared me a little bit.
Oh, he's a
Like, he's
giant
really
head with tiny arms and tiny feet. And
yes, he is.
Yeah, and his name is M.O.D.O.K, and the acronym has changed a little bit. Marvel acronyms evolve a lot. Like SHIELD has stood for a lot of different things throughout the run of Marvel. So the M is what has changed a few times. So it's M.O.D.O.K, and that is an abbreviation. So the M has stood for mental, mobile, or mechanized. But I believe mobile was the one that I was more familiar with. So let's say mobile organism designed only for killing.
MODOK.
Yeah, M.O.D.O.K. And at one point he was in charge of AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics. And I guess when he first is introduced, he's just a former employee. And there's an experiment that he tries to increase his intelligence. So he gets a really big brain, gets the huge head, but then his body's still regular sized. So he needs that chair. And it's kind of amazing because, look, this is going to be a comedy series for somebody who's terrifying looking. So I kind of imagine, like, could you do this where it's like a sitcom almost? And it's like just M.O.D.O.K going about his day. Sure, he does his super villaining. And then at the end of the day, though, he's got to come home. He's still got to be M.O.D.O.K. How does he find a hat big enough? Does he have someone to put on his shoes, or does he have to do it himself?
He has hats made. I feel like you'd have to have them specially made. And does he get in and out of that contraption, or does he just stay in it?
I think he has to stay in it.
Just stays in it at all
he can't
times.
function. And then for those that saw the image that we have on YouTube, he has to like plug in and be like charged, and
So that's how he sleeps. He just
he's
plugs
like
in and sits
he's
like
like a
this.
Tesla. You gotta plug him in every once in a while. Every 250 miles. Like M.O.D.O.K can't get all the way to Vegas without plugging in. So it's kind of great that M.O.D.O.K is going to get a television series, and the only way you could really do M.O.D.O.K justice is animated form. So I am very excited for that show. Can't imagine what it would be like. Let us know in the chat whether you're watching live or if you're watching after the fact, and we can comment on it next week. What you think the M.O.D.O.K show could be, and what you hope it would be. What do we have?
Just really quickly, Merle Ortega says, can you describe the characters of the TV show that you were talking about? I'm visually impaired. We can do a quick overview.
I appreciate them mentioning that. Yeah, absolutely.
So you can know. Howard the Duck is a duck.
He's a duck.
Like a human.
He's a duck-sized being from Duck World. So everybody's a duck there. And then he ends up in our world, which he never made. He does always wear a nice hat, which is funny. Tigra basically is like a anthropomorphic. I can say it now.
Nice.
Like a tiger, but she's also
in human form.
A lady. Yeah,
right.
she's in
she
human
definitely
form.
has like arms and legs and breasts, but she has cat markings and fur and a tail.
And not to be speciesist, but Dazzler is the most normal. She's just a human-looking person, and she's had some different looks. She's had short hair. She had a blue costume throughout the '80s, but the disco jumpsuit with the roller skates, that's my sweet spot right there. I will always love that. And Hitmonkey is a monkey, and but he's also a hitman. And we also have M.O.D.O.K, which is a giant head with a regular-sized body. So that's kind of to summarize it. And I hope we did a good enough job, and I hope that helps you at least able to understand how these characters would function in a normal world. So we have those 4 series. This is very reminiscent of the Netflix deal when it was first signed, because what we will get is everybody put back together, a team up for all these characters: Dazzler, Tigra, Hitmonkey, Howard the Duck, and our pal M.O.D.O.K, all together for the Offenders. Not the Defenders.
Nice.
The Offenders. And I can only imagine what sort of scenario would get them together. Of all those characters, Zia, and I ask this to the chat too, who are you most excited to see interact with each other? Because I have an answer, but I'd like to know who you're thinking.
Ooh, okay. You know what? Actually, to see interact, I would love to see Howard the Duck and M.O.D.O.K.
That's exactly where I'm at.
No way.
Yes, because I would just imagine Howard the Duck sees this giant head floating around, and he's like, "What?
What are you?
What are you?
What is happening right now?"
So, as we go through this process, we will report any news we get on this. But this is very exciting.
I'm so excited.
It's a very exciting time for Marvel. Look, the stuff that they have turned into beloved content. The fact that they took the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are honestly fringe characters. I mean, now they're really well known. But I was just like, Rocket Raccoon's going to be in a movie? Okay, if you say so. So the fact that they're taking this is just like, you know what? They're they're a little bit emboldened by their success, but they're like, let's take a chance. Let's see how these go.
No, I'm into it. And I love cartoons. And
Yeah.
I feel like I don't get a chance to watch them enough.
Yeah.
Now I have to, but I also want to.
No,
but like,
these cartoons, for
like
sure.
I'm so excited to sit down and enjoy a cartoon.
Yeah. Before we move on to, I want to talk a little bit about the latest episode of The Gifted before we wrap up. Let's talk about, because we're talking about Hulu, that there were comments that
Yes.
the platform would be interested. Are you going to be all right?
I got really excited.
You're so excited.
So excited.
They would be interested in, they'd be Craig Erwich, the senior vice president for originals at Hulu, said that he'd love to revive the Netflix shows, which, let's think about it from a business standpoint. It's a little bit of a poke at Netflix to take these properties.
Oh, yeah.
And as we've talked about before, I think the way the deal was, it'd be 2 years before they could actually put them on the air. I don't know if they can develop them and shoot them and all that before that time. But I think that would be like, look what we took from you. You threw these away, and look what we're doing. So they're open to it. And more recently, earlier today, Jeff Loeb from Marvel Television said he would not be surprised if the Netflix shows ended up there. So that's not saying like, oh, it's going to happen. But he's like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. So I think they're really open to this idea. And there was a lot of fear that these shows wouldn't fit in at Disney Plus. So where do they go? Marvel still has a great relationship with Hulu, as we just saw from the four and a half shows that we talked about. They're open to doing some adult content. So I think it would be great. Zia, I assume you're excited, but when you heard that, did your heart skip a beat like mine did?
Yes, because I was like, hey, maybe we're going to get to see it again. Yeah. And I know we talked about this on our sister network, the Popcorn Talk, on Marvel Movie News.
We're two of the co-hosts for Marvel Movie News. Yeah. Thursdays at 1 Pacific, 4 Eastern.
Very nice. That we were talking about that. And I believe Zach said we'd have to wait 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Before anything happens. Yeah. So and I'm fine with that, honestly.
Yeah, take
gives
2
us
years.
A little break. Yeah, make it awesome. We can watch some other stuff. There's so much content out there. Yeah. But I would really, really, really love to see even just a Defenders.
Yeah, I think
cool.
It would actually be a good place to start with a big Defenders event, and then you break them off into their own series. Sort of do it the reverse way from the way Netflix did it. And you know what? That gives you the chance, Zia, to one day continue to ship Karen Page, and Frank Castle, the Punisher.
We got so close in that last Punisher season.
Who broke it up? Amy, right? Amy just like barged in.
Well, and also it was Frank, because Frank was like, "No, I can't be," and I get it.
You do it. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we only have about 5 minutes, but what I want to talk about is the latest episode of The Gifted. And I know some of you who've watched this show, especially from the beginning, are like, "Wait, you're making time to talk about The Gifted?" I have to applaud The Gifted for tackling one of the most epic storylines in X-Men history, the Mutant Massacre, which is a storyline where the Marauders went into the Morlock tunnels and just, with reckless abandon, just mercilessly killed a ton of them. And a number of our beloved Marvel characters were impacted by this. Let's see, Angel was never the same. He actually lost his wings, and then he turns into Archangel. I don't need to explain that. That's a whole thing. Then we'd be here all day. Let's see, Nightcrawler and Colossus and a number of characters needed some time to kind of, heal and get their minds right. There's a great image that I don't. If Marissa, if you have a moment to show that, I think it's the last one that we didn't show. It's an image of Wolverine, and it's just one of the most epic covers. It's from Uncanny X-Men 212, and it's just this like, he's fighting Sabretooth, who is part of this force, and it's just like, okay, for those watching on YouTube, you can kind of see like, for Wolvie's costume to get all ripped up like that, it's probably a little bit of a rough day for him. And of course, it is the great brown and gold Wolverine
I was just going to say that. It's your favorite one.
I love the brown and gold Wolverine costume.
You have a T-shirt that's that color.
Yeah,
those colors.
I have one with that suit, absolutely. So they managed to figure out a way to do this on The Gifted. And look, I don't... The Purifier organization it's a bit of a tough pill for me to swallow on the show, but we are getting to see, Jace is getting a little bit like, I don't know if I'm in with the right people. It took the whole season, but he's starting to think like, am I really on the right side of this? Because
finally
they're able to get the non-fighting mutants, the children, get them out of the Morlock tunnels thanks to our pal Blink. He kind of sees like, look, it's a little melodramatic. It's a teddy bear on the ground, but at the same time, he's like, what am I doing? And we needed that character to at least try to get to that point, because I've been finding it we've talked a lot about this.
Yes.
It's like, this is a hate group.
Yeah.
You're a minority. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, you don't like mutants. Great. Figure something out. Write to your congressman. And so the fact that they did that storyline, I thought it was really impressive. And then Xia, I know you haven't seen this, and I only call you out for it because I know how much you love spoilers.
I do like spoilers.
So at the end of the episode, we have every indication Blink takes a ton of bullets, to the extent that her portal closes and John's on the other side of it and she falls down. We don't know. Is she dead?
If they kill Blink, I riot.
Well, yeah.
She's one of the good things about the show.
They have taken good things off this show before.
No.
They have killed. So I think that that was one of those moments where I'm like, wait, did they do that? And we won't know until this Tuesday at 9, 8 Central on Fox. And there's only 2 more episodes left this season. And look, just to be completely blunt, the ratings are really low on this show. I don't know that it would come back for a 3rd season, but I know they're going to end really strong because obviously they hope they do. And to be fair, the Hulu viewership of it is actually pretty high. The next day, the DVR and the Hulu stuff. So that's kind of what they're hoping for.
Okay, so people aren't necessarily watching it live;
Yes.
they're waiting and watching it later.
Right.
Which
and if you watch it within the next 3 days, it counts towards the ratings. So
so they're getting decent numbers on there, just not necessarily live numbers. Okay, that's interesting.
So for anybody who watches The Gifted, let me know what you think. How do you think that they handled, and by me I mean us, sorry. Let us know what you think about how they handled the Mutant Massacre story. And are you worried about Blink? And again, if we don't get to your comments this week, we will talk about it next week. I believe that we're essentially out of time. But if you see any comments jump out, Xia, we will let you read 1 or 2 of them, and then we'll wrap things up.
Ghost8386 says the Marvel Knights show needs to happen on Hulu in the future.
I definitely agree with that.
Look at that.
That's, that would be a little bit, it's not even, again, that's like PG-13. It's a little bit more advanced. I would love to see Marvel Knights.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then there was one that I saw before from, I believe it was Ink and TV. Ink and TV says that the offenders, where is it? The offenders in the comics were Red Hulk, Tiger Shark, Baron Mordo, and Terrorex.
They're just taking the name, and they're going to apply it to these characters.
So it's just like it's a different.
It's like how if you read Guardians of the Galaxy comics, it's not the characters in the movie. It is now, but it wasn't really. It's actually like Yondu and Sylvester Stallone's character and some others. So anyway, there was so much to cover that I can't believe we're out of time already. Z, can you believe that we're out of time?
No, there was a lot to talk about,
Yeah,
and it was fun.
I love talking about these, just some of the fun deep dive you go on trying to research these Hulu characters. So excited to do that.
Yes.
Anyway, we'll be back to talk about more things Marvel, including, I keep teasing, we're going to talk about Runaway Season 2, I swear.
I finished it.
We'll talk about it next week. It'll be Sunday at 9, just like always, because, who needs to watch Academy Awards? Come hang out with us. Until then, Zia, where do people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Zia_Land. It's XIA_Land. And on Facebook at Zia Landerson.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And as I mentioned before, you can find Zia and I on our sister network, Popcorn Talk, on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern, for Marvel movie news, except for this week when I won't be there. But we'll always be there with our friend Zach Wilson, and you can find us there every Thursday. Thanks to Marissa in the booth. Thanks to everybody in the chat. We will see you next time, and until next week, Excelsior!
Bye.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.